A monumental day at the U.S. Supreme Court. Justices heard arguments on whether Donald Trump can be removed from state ballots for his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election.
Right now, it appears those attempts could be rejected. Fox 5's Morgan McKay joins us now with more on today's hearing. Morgan.
Yes, Stephen, Natasha, and this is significant. Even though the Supreme Court has a 6-3 conservative majority, several of the liberal justices expressed some skepticism. But this ruling has the ability to affect not only the election in Colorado, where this all originated, but the election in all 50 states.
I think Trump is likely to win this battle.
As Professor James Sample explains, the Supreme Court justices seemed to indicate on Thursday that they were leaning towards siding with former President Donald Trump, which would mean that he would be able to remain on the ballot in Colorado and elsewhere. At the heart of this case is Section 3 of the Constitution's 14th Amendment, which was adopted after the Civil War in order to keep former Confederates from taking power. It says that anyone who had previously served as an officer of the United States and then engaged in insurrection would be barred from holding federal office. However, Trump's attorney, Jonathan Mitchell, focused his main argument on this one line: officer of the United States, which Mitchell says does not apply to presidents.
Officer of the United States refers only to appointed officials, and it does not encompass elected individuals such as the president or members of Congress.
Mitchell also argued that disqualifying Trump would require an act of Congress. He only quickly mentioned that Trump did not engage in insurrection, but did not focus his entire arguments around it, which Professor Sample says made sense.
Mr. Trump is likely to win this case without the justices weighing in on the definition of insurrection or whether Mr. Trump engaged in it.
On the opposite side, Jason Murray, who is a lawyer for Colorado voters. He focused heavily on the insurrection portion.
By engaging in insurrection against the Constitution, President Trump disqualified himself from public office.
But the justices turned their focus to the intent behind the 14th Amendment, arguing that the whole point of it was to restrict state power after the Civil War. So why would states be allowed to make a decision that would have national implications in an election?
I think that the question that you have to confront is why a single state should decide who gets to be president of the United States.
Trump, who has attended many of his court hearings as of late, was not in the courtroom on Thursday, but did speak to reporters at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, I'm a believer in our country, and I'm a believer in the Supreme Court. I listened today, and I thought our arguments were very, very strong.
Now, the Supreme Court agreed to fast-track their decision, but a ruling could come anytime. It could be tomorrow or in a month. But regardless of how they rule, Trump's name will still appear on Colorado's primary ballots since a deadline for printing them was last week. Steve, Natasha?
Well, all right, thanks, Morgan.